All right. Well, we're already in here doing the stuff this morning. So, right here we're smothering out that clover a little bit. I was mentioning that that this stuff, you know, these guys, which is the medium red, and oh look, they do this wild thing. They like bloom down here. I don't know. I'm sure there's a word for all of this, but they bloom down here. They got these really pretty red blooms that come out. Anyway, that you can make tea out of. That so these guys are pretty easy to keep in check, but the that the Dutch white was a little harder to suppress. There's a joke there somewhere. I am not gonna make. So what we're gonna do, well, what we've already done is this is also fish fertilizer day. So a little fish hydrosolate, I think it is. I don't know. I just call it fish hydro. It's ground up fish, fermented a little bit there. It's pretty gross. Plants love it. So what I've done is I've taken my cardboard. It's really windy today. I've taken my cardboard and I've soaked it in the fish hydro in this 30-gallon container there. And there's also some microbes, some beneficial microbes in there, a few other things. So I kind of preloaded it, soaked it in there. Underneath there's a lot of good compost, and earlier in the year I came in here, kind of cut some of the clover back, smothered it with compost. This is probably in January, and then I've just been watering it and keeping it going, and it's starting to sprout up. I knew that it would. It's fine, but I'm going to this area is probably going to have like tomatoes and maybe cucumbers or what, you know, bigger plants that I can put in there. So what'll happen is I will cardboard smother out the rest that I want smothered. I will then put compost over the top of that, and then that should suppress the clover. And then when it comes time, probably not till June, you know, mid-May, maybe I'll plant stuff out. But we'll get freezes here as late as the middle of June. I think our last year. Anyway, middle of June is probably when things get planted out. I can always cover them if I need to. But I'll be able to just poke down through the cardboard and then, you know, install like a tomato or something, seedling that's a pretty good size. And then all of this will be knocked back, and, you know, so hopefully that'll work real nice. We'll see. This is how we do it outside. You know, the one thing that I am doing different was soaking it in the fish emulsion there, because I feel like that's going to help break it down. So, because it's a lot of carbon to put in, and so that's going to kind of draw down some of the nitrogen that's available. So you know, a lot of the stuff you want to make sure you do far enough in advance, so that things will be okay. But the way I've done this, I feel pretty confident about it. And then adding the fact that I soaked it in the fish emulsion is, I think that's a great idea. We'll see. And then, you know, everything's looking real nice, really good. They're just pumping right along. These are the romaine type over here. More romaine. There's two different types of romaine in here, three actually. And then there's our big clover. And then this is the bib type. These guys are going to be small head lettuce. So they're actually, you know, they're really coming along. I'm so impressed with them. I forget how much they like the colder weather. And then it's not so hard to grow these in the early spring. And in fact, they like life a little bit better than the romaines do. But these are kind of hard to grow in the summer. Go figure, you know, grow things when they grow good. You think I would learn every year, though. Seems like I learn it again. You know, I should just be planting more of these, and like the rouge de vert, like the I don't know. I'll show you. I don't know if you can see. They're over here. They really stand out. Anyway, those guys really love the cold as well. And I think that those and these guys are going to make a really nice looking salad too, with the because I also have these that we're gonna pick leaves off of and be able to make a spring salad mix out of too. But the romaines, man, these guys are really strong during the summertime. Even when it's really hot, they're really bolt resistant, and they just seem to really not mind it so much. And so that's good. The radishes are looking good. I caught the wild, Chef Jay grazing in the wild the other day. That's why there's a hole right there. So she's not technically a pest. But she was out here grazing. It's good. That's part of, we do this to attract that sort of behavior. It leads to good meals. And then wild carrot here. This is pretty cool. I think it's a salsify. I should really learn the Latin names of these things as well. And then there's other names maybe I could learn too. Spinach is doing really good. Oh man, I'm looking forward to this. Once this stuff really takes off, man, it just goes and goes and goes. But it also bolts, easily enough. So it's good to do a lot of successions that way. Because you'll get a few picks off of it before it goes to seed. And then at some point in the summer, it's probably not as worth it to grow it. It depends on where you're at, how cold it gets. And this is the Rouge de Vert type I was talking about, which is, I don't know, the variety we have is called Outrageous. And it's like they're making a play on the word outrageous, but put the word red in there. It's a biodynamic seed from Territorial, I think. But I've been impressed with its germination and how much it likes to grow. It's pretty beautiful. And then I realized I hadn't really pointed it out. Jay harvested a bunch of it for her class, but hi Freya. Freya's here with me, which is always good. Years ago we planted bulb fennel, and because we're inside the hoop house here, the ground never really freezes. I mean, maybe the top inch or something might freeze, but whereas outside, it might freeze down 3 feet. So it's really different in here in that way. And these guys have perennialized, and so these babies just come up every year, and then they grow into these long, big, tall plants, and then they've put out all this wild looking pollen and then a ton of seeds. And then we pick these as babies, and it has a real nice kind of a licorice flavor. But Jay just harvested a bunch of that and took it to her class, but I forgot to point it out, and it is it gets real happy, and it grows really well in here. And garlic is killing it, of course. And then our cabbages here. Hi, Freya. Freya is still here with me. Hi, little dog. Hi. Do you want to say hi? Say hi. Oh. Are you a good dog? You're the best dog. I know. The cabbages are killing it. We had that one that got eaten. Right here, that's kind of the nub that's left. And I don't know, man, it just got picked and it got eaten, and the other ones have been fine. There's a little bit of bird damage here, but golfers could definitely take them out, and a rabbit could do some damage, and ground squirrels, and so we're not totally out of the woods, but in terms of them being eaten by small bugs, we're probably past that. And then I brought the flat of our next round of lettuce out here. So there's 45 more lettuces in there. So there's 15 in each of those. And there's 2 different kinds of bib and a romaine. And the romaine doesn't look awesome, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm not gonna judge anybody yet. And they'll be fine. They're gonna do great. But these guys are ready to roll, and they're, you know, if they weren't in soil blocks, I probably wouldn't want them to get quite this big. But because they're in there, they don't get root bound, and you know, they're doing fine. But they're so ready to be outside. And you can see how well the bibs are doing out there, so it's you know, it's a shame to leave them inside at this point. But I wanted to wait until the day that I made the fish hydro, because I want to be able to do a root drench on them when I put them in the ground. So what I'll do is when I dig the hole for them, I'll put them in there, and then I'll just have a watering can full of a little bit of that fish juice there, and you know, pour it in, you know, water them in with that, and then there's microbes, beneficial microbes and stuff in there too. They were also inoculated with beneficial microbes at the time I planted the seeds, which is really important. A lot of the relationships, the connections that they're going to make with microbiology, you know, a seed's just sort of meant to come alive in its natural soil or whatever, and all those microbes are there, and then, you know, that little seedling will just make those connections with those microbes. But, you know, like, so we have to make sure that those things are provided. The younger that they make those connections, the better. And again, these microbes are things that can actually mine the minerals out of the soil and then make those minerals available to the plants, and all other kinds of nutrients and things. So anyway, I'm going to finish doing what I'm doing here. And all right, peace. All right, here we are, Project Smother the Clover. So we got this box covered up, and you know, we'll probably put a little bit more on there, moving along. And here we go. So we'll give a shout out. So when you know, you get your boxes, stuff, you know, people deliver to you or whatever, you know, you can just put it down on the ground. It's a good carbon source. And let's see, shout out to Big B's. They have terrific apple juice, and they're not sponsoring us, I mean, except with the cardboard. We did drink all of that, though. We go through a lot of that stuff. It's not cheap, you know, shouldn't be either. It's very high quality, it's good stuff, you know. We don't pay enough, you know. We pay a lot for weird things that we don't really need, and then we don't really pay enough for quality food or people to actually put the time in to grow it. And then I don't know. You know, everybody should have access to high quality food, and the people who grow it should get paid enough to live a nice life, and, you know, be happy growing the food. I don't know. Got to figure it out. Anyway, just thought I would point that out. You know, you can take your boxes, put them down, and then you are putting that carbon back into the soil instead of having it go into a landfill or whatever. And then, you know, this is going to turn into more plants. And you know, you just want to use nice natural cardboard, like no glossy stuff. Sometimes we use the bags if there's no plastic liners in them. We use the bags from flour and stuff like that. You know, sometimes those bags, those like 25-pound bags, sometimes they'll have a thin plastic layer in there or something, but most of the good ones don't. Anyway, so sometimes we'll use them, and just get all the paper off, anything that has plastic. Sometimes the tape will have like that woven strings, like weird dental floss crap in there as a reinforcement in the tape, so try to get that off. Plus then just like the Scotch tape stuff, or packing tape, try to get all that off. It's probably fine, but, you know, I just try to get all that out of there. I don't want any of that in the garden. I work too hard in the soil to do that. But so you just incorporate your boxes, cover them up. You really want to do this a couple 3 months before you need the beds. That way the microbiology's got a time to break some of that carbon down, and then start to go through a place where it's going to have more nutrients available, because it's just going to tie up a lot of nitrogen until it eats through some of that carbon, and then it'll start to release it. And you know, but a couple 3 months is usually good. And we're still 2 months away from our last frost date. So, and then the stuff, you know, the other beds, like these other ones that I put the garlic in, of course, that was last year. And then these beds, and then these beds here were all done in January. So for spring crops, you probably want to get your beds prepped, you know, just thinking about the future, because you guys are going to be doing this all the time now. You know, you probably January get beds prepped with top them off the compost or whatever you're going to do. You want to keep them watered because, you know, we're really keeping the microbiology alive in here. That's really the main thing. That's the thing I wanted to mention. It's important. It's not the main thing, right? But, you know, the ground, the field, which the thing we want, the vegetables, what, you know, that it rises out of, that space, the earth, is full of a lot of life. And we're really feeding that life. And then that life can make nutrients available to our plants that can and do, right? This is how it happens in nature, right? Like, nature doesn't need a chemical company to sell them to sell them something like nitrogen, which I think the atmosphere is like 70 some percent nitrogen or something ridiculous like that. It's like most of our breathing atmosphere is nitrogen, right? And these things like this clover right here can team up with microbes in the soil and pull that nitrogen out of the air and make it available to the plants, right? Like, we don't need you know, any kind of it just does it by itself. Of course it does, because, you know, like, forests and stuff exist, right? And we can apply these same ideas to our gardens, right? But anyway, we want that biology to have a good 2-3 months to work on that, so it can really get fed up and ready, like you know, plumped up and ready for spring. All right, that was real wordy. All right, I'm gonna keep cracking so we can get these guys in today. We've got our cabbage in here, and there's pretty wide spacing on the cabbage. And one of them got taken out, so I think we're going to be able to find a little space to put a couple of lettuces in here. And then we're just going to see wherever else we can get them in for today. And then also we've got this whole bed over here that we'll start prepping. And well, we'll see how it goes, man. I mixed up the fish water, so, you know, it's a good day to do all the prep and stuff, bed prep, and that way everything gets a good coating of that. But then it's also good to get those microbes and stuff down in the roots when you're putting your starts in. So this is a nice time to do that. All right, so we're just gonna get some of those in and see how it goes. There's the Nancy, which took so long to germinate, which looks great now. That's the Nancy over on this side. And then this is the Merlot, which is the same as the bib lettuce down here. Nancy's in. I feel like they took so long to get here. They deserve to get in the ground. Almost gave up on them. It took them so long to germinate. Just need to find a stick or something. You can see the roots are just starting to come out the bottom. Let's take the whole thing out, really. And you can just see, hopefully you can see that okay. You know, those soil blocks just work real nice, and the roots don't wind around, and they can breathe. They're not all cooped up in that plastic, so it makes a really nice, healthy start. So a little tricky to get the first one out sometimes, but actually went pretty good. And let's pop them down in there. Let's give them a little squish, and then when we water them, we'll water them in with the fish juice. All right, I'm just gonna keep moving here. And you know, we're not a huge operation. We don't do a ton. I could probably, you know, come up with ways to do this much more efficient than I do. But you know, even as slack ass as I am, like, you'd be amazed at what you could grow, you know, just in your spare time. And the whole time you're doing it, you're putting carbon in the ground, especially if you're doing it in a good way. And feeding yourself, getting hooked up with nature there. I think that's super important. You know, remind us of a lot of things nature does. Maybe a lot of things we need to remember right now. All right, I think we're just gonna move, you know, right over here and interplant with this cabbage and see how that goes. I was planning on putting carrots in here, and I think I probably still will do that, and I will just mix them in here. And carrots, you know, they really need to be kept wet for a long time while they germinate. They take a long time to germinate. You know, some things you'd think that you couldn't grow and start seed cells and stuff inside that you can, like, you know, turnips you can put in those trays, and beets and things like that, but you really can't do it with carrots. Carrots, you really have to seed right into the ground, and they take a long time to germinate. And they're little seeds, so you can't cover them up too much, and you just can't let them dry out, right? So it takes like maybe even a couple of weeks. I mean, the faster you can get it to happen, the better off you are, because they just can't dry out. And like I said, they can't be too deep in the ground, otherwise they just you know, the little guys, when they pop out of the seed there, they just they don't have enough oomph to push past too much soil. So it's pretty nice to actually have some plants in here, and then you can just sow carrots in between them all. And even though that's really going to be shading the carrots a lot, they kind of like that because they take a long time to germinate anyway. So, you know, as long as you're willing to just have stuff pop up and maybe have to look for your carrots a little bit or whatever, yeah, it's a nice surprise when it happens. Alright, so I'm just going to work my way down here. And with these lettuces like this, you know, it depends, you know, again, on what you're going to do with it and even what variety, but between probably 6 and 8, maybe even 9 inches, but, you know, probably between 6 and 8 is normally what I do. And then, because lettuces aren't, you know, they're not real heavy feeders anyway. They're actually pretty light feeders. So they don't compete that much with what's around them. You can see I have spinach coming up from last year that I direct seeded, or maybe it seeded itself, I'm not sure. But we'll take it, you know, that's free. That'll be a nice plant over here. You know, it's not over by the other ones, so it won't get eaten. If those get eaten, you know, it'll spread it out a little bit. So you're welcome to volunteers too. It's a pretty good deal for everybody. Got a lot of spiders in here lately. I think that's a really good sign. You know, spiders, you know, have a hard time surviving unless they're in a pretty clean, chemical-free environment. Pretty sensitive. So that's another thing that I know is going to be taking care of a lot of aphids. You know, I'm sure aphids are delicious. You know, they're like little juice boxes. The ladybugs just leave their husks sort of like sucked dry, laying around. It's pretty awesome. You know, little beer cans alongside the road, or whatever, soda cans, whatever. I think I could put one more right there. You know, that spinach is right there, but you know, the spinach isn't going to get giant, and there's a lot of fertility in this bed, so I think we can get away with an amount of crowding. You know, kind of think of these garden beds as almost like a circuit board. You know, it's all hooked together with mycelia in the ground, and you know, they can move nutrients around. You know, these plants make relationships with the microbes that can do some mining, and they can move all that stuff around. So let's think of it as like, you know, we're really making that nice circuit board to just plug them into, and then that's, you know, that's actually the power source, you know, because this is the solar panels, right, that brings, you know, all that solar energy into the ground, and not just through heat hitting the ground, but that they bring it in by putting all that the root exudates. You know, what they put in the ground is carbon. It's liquid carbon. And yeah, I don't know if you can think of a reason why we should be putting carbon in the soil right now, but I could think of a couple of reasons. You know, think of a couple of reasons. All right, I'm just gonna move on. It's probably boring as shit, so I'm just gonna turn the camera off now. And thanks for listening if you did. All right, bye. All right, well, we got those in. We got those Nancy's in, and then we got the rest of the Merlot in too. Let's check that out real quick. It's a golden hour in the Hoophouse. So the light is terrific. Give you a little action there. The garlic just has the best. This is so awesome. Yeah, it's nice stuff. All right, anyway, moving along, and then we got the right here. This is we just cleared this part of the bed and planted that Merlot, which is the other kind of big lettuce. And then just kind of, you know, if you can see what's in here, there's all kinds of native plants in here and some not native plants, and you know, just a bunch of stuff. But it's, you know, it's been holding it down, and it's been green and alive, and you know, putting its eggs in the ground, and so, you know, I'm fine with that. You know, there's also a lot of vetch and, you know, stuff that we have planted here on purpose, and so we just clear it as we want, you know, so you can see the difference, right? This is the kind of the weedy part, but nothing's going to seed. It's all fine. And then this right here, I just went in actually with a pocket knife, and I just kind of slid it underneath the soil and cut the roots off, cut the tops off of, you know, any of these, like the mullein and all that kind of stuff, and just got it out of there. And then brought in a load of compost and put it down, put some of the fish juice on there, planted the plants, hit it with the fish juice again, watered it in real good, and you know, hopefully we're off to the races there. And you know, just another look at these guys. We got some more in here, and you know, another good look at the garlic with the good light. The garlic with the good light. Yeah, it's nice stuff. All right, love you all. Bye.